Okay, hopefully that you can hear that. All right, so here's the problem a lot of you guys are doing right now is you guys are attempting to fit everything on your sketchbook pages or your paper within one little frame. And what you're doing, and this is what I was sort of warning you guys about, and this is really common though in perspective, is the average drawing I've looked at so far looks just like this. There's a frame, and then you have your vanishing points like so. Yes, your vanishing points are not inside the frame. That is correct. However, though, they're still pretty close. And actually, most of you have your frame out to about something like this. And the problem with that I can illustrate really well here in Photoshop, is that if I want to reframe because of my subject matter, I can only go this far. You see that? I can't go that far because of my vanishing points being too close. Okay? Yes, you can go upward a little bit if you like. I can go like that, but I have a real limitation on being able to sort of go from here and go like this, poof, and go outward. Okay? Sometimes I can go out past one vanishing point. Okay? There is a little bit of magic that has to sort of happen, and I have to be able to come in here and draw it correctly, but I can go outside it because I could get this sort of forced feel and illusion. Hold on a minute. Let me label stuff real quick. So I'll end up drawing on the wrong layer. There we go. Okay, so if this way I won't draw on it. So now if I come up here and I start sketching a house, even though I'm over that particular perspective, I can still get this to fit in here, and I could cheat basically a house in here. It's going to be a tight fit, but if I come in here and you look, see, that could work. So I could slightly do that. The only problem is I don't want my frame to go too far past, because if I come over here and I try to turn and I can't recede back now, it doesn't make any sense. So if I overlap a shape like this, so if that is going about here, and let's say it come up to here, and then it comes up to here, that's how I can pull that off on a cheat, okay? Is I could overlap and have one vanishing point a little bit inside the picture plane, but not much, okay? So the biggest problem that I'm noticing on a lot of these, your assignments, is that the reason why I gave you houses and a factory was to establish the difference between the silhouettes of each, okay? Most houses, so I'm going to leave perspective here for a minute and come back to another layer here. And let me label this our house layer. Okay, most houses are going to be, I'm going to draw this from like a front view. They're going to be like this. You're going to have a garage, okay? You just got to talk to yourself. And just, you're going to have a garage that's going to be like that. You're going to have a front area. Let's say we get high tech and it's 2-story. You might have like a little front door. Might have a window here, window there, okay? You might have a roof that's like this. Then you have sort of a second story that could be like this. And there could be a couple little windows here, like so. Okay? Whatever it is, your houses are going to stay in this really primitive, basic cube shape. I mean, if I look at this, I'm just doing this from a plain front view, but I basically have this. I have one cube shape here. I have another cube shape here. And then I have another cube sitting on the top there. I have 3 cubes. Okay? So when you look at the reference that I gave you and you take a look at houses, no matter how you want to sort of stack it up, you just have to go back to a front view and just say, hey, I could have that there. Some houses have a little stretch where there's like a little room or a hallway. Then they have one that's a little bit smaller like that. Okay? Heck, the front door could be over there. And then if you want to get really complicated, not too complicated, but I mean you have just this front view, right? Then you come back here and that might be elevated up a little bit more. And then you have this type of structure there in the back. Okay? Those are simple housing structures, okay? This is really simple here as well. It's just a couple shapes. So I'm drawing this from a front view because then I can distinguish the shape differences and realize, hey, that's 1, that's 2, and then back here I have another offset. So I have 3, that's it. 3 cubes with triangle tops and my house is done. Okay, some people aren't showing me that right now, and we should be at that stage. What I'm getting from some of you guys is, hold on, is this. Some of you guys are coming in here and you're giving me just like a simple block. You're saying, okay, oh, let me switch to blue. Here's our sidewalk proceeding back this way to our vanishing point, and I'm just going to come in here and just put a cube. That's a house. That's not a house. House has a little bit more on it. You can have little tops. You got to make sure the scale's right. So if somebody walking here is that big, you know, is that house wide enough to accommodate? You know, what is that? Is that a one-bedroom man cave? No. You want to make sure the house is a little bit larger. So I might have to extend part of that line back and then, you know, come up here with the roof line. You know, figure out that middle point, get that roof in there. Okay, get that roughed out. Okay, the other thing I noticed is some of you guys are drawing with colored pencils. Colored pencils are okay if they're more of a hard-based pencil, like a color erase pencil. Those draw very well because they have more glue mixed inside with the pigment and material. And so that way they get a harder tip on them. Prismacolor pencil is not a good pencil to be drawing with right now. It's soft, it has less glue, it reacts to paper differently, and you're going to be getting a big, fat, blunt, rough line. That's okay if you're more advanced and you can rough with that on tracing paper, that's great. But some of you aren't advanced yet and you need to be able to get that nice line quality on part of your drawing. Okay? All right. So the next thing I wanted to mention that I'm noticing a lot of people doing, some people are coming in and they're doing this. That's the factory they're giving me. That's not a factory, that's a cube. Right? We need to define what that is. And factories are really easy because all we really have to do is get in here and add some other cube-shaped elements that resemble a factory. That's it. Oops. Get my horizon line in there. That's it. That could be my factory. It's that simple. The thing I'm looking for in your factory is this right here, folks. And I didn't give this lecture in this class because it's not technically a design class, but I didn't give a silhouette lecture. Maybe I should talk about it. But this is what I'm looking for right here. That is what we call silhouette read. By seeing that silhouette read, that outline right there, I immediately have communicated to the viewer, okay, something about the use of silhouette and shape and language, okay, about shapes. And that language is going to tell the viewer, oh, that's a factory, within just like a second of looking at it. If you don't have those pipes, those top windows, you just got to ask yourself, what do you see with a factory? You see tops that have like round angled parts. You see smokestacks. You see like little, I call them elevator huts, but they're like these little boxes like this. It look like they could be like, you know, stairs that could go down. You just keep adding on stuff. If you want to keep going upward, I could keep even coming over here and I could say, oh, okay, maybe there's a box, another square that attaches to this, and then this has a little square that comes out, and then there's a little pipe that comes to here, and then if I come over here, something comes down to here, and then there's another bigger square. You just put a series of cubes overlapping other cubes, and then really quickly start to get a factory. Smokestacks are key. Second thing are windows. If I come in here and I sketch in just a really base, oh, sorry, my ruler slipped there. If I sketch in a really simple window system, like that, boom. Now it even looks more like a factory. Okay, the next thing you see on factories is there's always going to be delivery doors. So I could come over here. This is the whole brainstorming thing that some of you guys need to do just on paper. It's a great exercise where you write down in word-based what are the visual descriptors of the particular thing that you're trying to design. It doesn't matter if it's a spaceship. It doesn't matter if it's an illustration about a bunch of kids buying ice cream. What are the things that you notice that little kids might have if they're buying ice cream? Anyone? Kids would have scooters. They'd have skateboards. They'd have big wheels. Things that identify them as children, right? So if I have to draw a warehouse, what is a warehouse going to have? Windows, smokestacks, delivery doors, separate little cubes off to the side. It might even have round windows. It might have glass windows up on the top like this. Okay? These are all elements that make a factory happen. And even if you go into stylized representation of animation and you look at like Tom and Jerry and some older shows, you see a factory and you know it's a factory because it's like there's always a smokestack and a large window on it and a door. There has to be. It's the visual language that you're communicating to the viewer. They're going to see that shape and it's an instant read. Okay? So, excuse me, voice is starting to go a little bit. So the problem is this is what I'm getting from a lot of you right now is this. And then you're coming in here and you're like, okay, maybe I have another house going this way. This one's turned like this. And then there's a yard. We've got a tree in here. Okay, there's a street here. And then someone's coming and then they're saying, okay, now there's a house. It's going like this. Okay. And maybe another house here. Let's say whatever. Like that. That's the most of the layout drawings I'm getting from you guys. The problem with this right now is everything's cramped in there. Okay? And part of that reason is because my vanishing points are too close to each other. So some of you have to really pull that vanishing point further out. And then this is something else that's happening. I talked about that frame. So it's really hard for me to move that frame, okay, right now because a lot of you guys are crimping the top of your warehouse. You're cutting it off. When you're cutting that warehouse off, you can't get the visual read and the shape of it. So the problem is I want to take your frame and I want to do this right now. I want to pull it upward and open it like that. But then what happens when I do that? Your VPs are inside the picture plane now because you only put them like a ½ inch outside of the frame. You need to really expand your VPs. Okay, so let me show you an example. That's why some of you guys are like, oh, I can't move my frame. Well, you're too tight. Your VPs are too locked in. Okay, so if I take some of that off right now and I come back to grid 2 like this and have my VPs much further out, okay, this is going to allow me now to move my frame about with much greater accuracy. I could go from here. I can move all the way over to here. I can move down, up. I have much more room to move about by having the VPs out separate. Nothing really changes, okay? So another thing that I noticed is some of you guys are keeping your frame, but then you're drawing like this, okay? Give me a second here. Sketch. You're coming in and you're going, oh, brush, there we go. So you're coming in and you're going, yeah, here's my factory fill. And this is really common. And I didn't want to tell you about this because I wanted you guys to experience it on your own. You guys are giving me 3 cubes inside a piece. Okay. Here's my house. Oops. We're slipping again. So this is the next thing that I get from a lot of people here. It's not a bad thing, but there's a reason why this isn't working. It's got a tree, you have a house here. That's what I'm getting from some of you guys. It's not working. The scale is too large. When the scale is too large, okay, so that means 3 extremely large shapes, I can't get enough information in there to give any limited information about the factory. I can still get the factory in there, but what I want to do is I want to try to get at least, let's say 3 to 5 houses around there to identify that it's a neighborhood, okay? So that's too large right there, all right? That's what we don't want. However, though, if I come down and I do this, and I just bring down the scale a little bit more. I'm just going to rough real quick. So once I get that going, now I have the rest of my area to fill up. That can be my factory. I just started with a simple cube. I added some elements on the top that are going to be my defining silhouette shapes that are going to identify with the viewer exactly what's happening, right? Now it's the scale, okay? I haven't drawn a window or door on that yet. I could even draw a window in sheet scale. So I could come over here and I could do this. And if you've ever seen like a car factory, you still don't know exactly what that scale. Sorry, hold on a minute. Ruler. I was trying to get a line in the middle there. There we go. So if I come in here and I get some windows going down, like so. Okay, I still don't know what the scale is. Once I do this, if I do this, some people did that. That's fine. That's a roll door. But now you've changed the whole height relationship of your factory. Because now I understand what the height of a truck is, which means I know what the height of a person is. Okay? Give me a second, see if I can go back a couple times. However, though, look at what happens when I do this. This is the importance of getting our scale to dictate what's happening in our scene. Now with two smaller doors like that, totally changed the overall feel of the factory because I've made the scale much smaller. So as you're drawing, outside of talking about your silhouette shape of your factory and identifying it, the next thing is you're going to set the scale of that factory. And once you set the scale of that factory and you include an entry door, metal roll-up doors like I just did, perhaps you have a little balcony on the side, whatever your little creative minds can think of, right? That's fine. You might have something like that overhangs. There might be a little door like right here, whatever. Whatever it is that you put in there, it's going to set what's happening inside the scale, and then the rest all has to match up. Because now from this point forward, I can't have a gigantic house in the front, okay? Some of you guys started drawing vertical buildings. Houses tend to be rectangular shapes that are laid out horizontally, not vertically, okay? So now I could come in here, and let me just draw a street and just rough it out. This is something I like to do. Streets are really pivotal for me if I'm doing a layout of an environment, because once I can sketch in a little bit of the street, hold on, let me turn down that grid a little bit so it's really bright. And let me go back to rough. Here we go. Okay, so I like to sketch in a little bit of the street or two, and then it gives me an idea. You know, I could have a house that's, sort of like right over here. It's like right next to it. Okay, and I could come back here, and I might have, oops, do that crooked. And I start from the ground sometimes, and I work my way up. But then a lot of times I get to a point where I'm like, hey, I need to make a change. So let's say here I have now a line going this way. Okay, let's bring that line back there. Speed that back like so. It might be part of my house. Maybe there's a whole backside. Houses have all different types of configurations. Okay, they have odd roof lines. Whatever you want to put in there. However you make your house though, what are a couple of things that houses have? What's the most common thing that all houses have? Windows. Okay, but wait, hold on. Okay, if you've watched Naked and Afraid, have you seen that show on TV? What's the first thing that people usually do when they're out in the middle of nowhere?
Make a shelter.
Make a fire, because they're cold. Because I know we all live indoors and our species has become totally spoiled now and doesn't realize how cold it is. But on average, it drops down to 50, 55 degrees at night. Okay, if we're anywhere by the desert, it drops down to 40 at night. Then it's like 90 during the day. So every house, almost every single house made has a fireplace for that reason. So you could light fire. Okay? Light fire, you can't light fire, but to create fire. Okay? So you have to have that. So that right there is an automatic silhouette shape that I can have in every one of my houses. So if I come back here and I put a little silhouette of a little chimney there's one. And then I could come back over here, and this is a different style house right here. That's fine, but now I could come over here and make this chimney a lot larger, right? probably not in perspective, but that's fine. I have a chimney there. So then I could come over here, and if I sketch this in real quick, if I rough in, so that might be part of a street, and I get like a little street sign, whatever here. I might have a little mailbox, newspaper stand, whatever. I come over here to this edge of the street. I have a yard, so I'm going to put a house right in here. Okay. Maybe that recedes back and then stops. And then there's a front part to that house, overlaps a little, and then it does this and recedes back, let's say. Okay. And then I could come back here, and I can get some houses back in here. Might get another one over there. Might get one over here. One's a little bit different. This one's got a little chimney. Maybe there's a second level. See what I'm getting at here? I start to develop the rest of the neighborhood now. Okay, how many cube shapes? Even I would go back, and this is too large for me here. I might want to pull it back a little bit more. So here, if I lightly erase this, the reason why I'd want to pull it back is so I can see more of the houses back here. I could have a row of houses. So I could have a garage door on the majority of these, and every house might have a little bit different silhouette shape or whatever. And then I might have some trees in the back here by them. Okay, if I wanted to get technical, I might have a telephone pole or two going like this. Okay. All right. And then I come back here to my house in the front, and maybe it has a lower roof line like this in the front, like that. And then it has a secondary element like this, and it goes. And then who knows? Maybe I come over here and I have a whole nother house right here. You just got to get creative with it. And you just got to sketch. There, that might be part of another house here. So now I don't have just 3 cubes anymore, do I? Okay, if I draw over this in red, I have one large shape, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See what's happening? I'm identifying part of my neighborhood now because I have 7 cube shapes that are in there. Okay, that's really important, really imperative for me in my process. However, though, here's the golden part right here, folks. Okay, is this. Look, where are my vanishing points? Hold on. Get that last red. There we go. So here's the golden part. So my vanishing points are spread out now. So if I were to show this to Phil, I can now come in here and I can do this. Hold on. Keep doing that. There we go. Cancel. So now I can do this. Voila. See that? I could open up my frame. I could scale it that way. Okay? I can do all kinds of things. I could take my frame from here. So some of you guys did this on your drawings. The factory was getting hit. So what's the problem there? Where's the horizon line right now? It's too high. So if you reframe, and you move up, now you can see your factory. Okay? But now since my vanishing point is way off to the right-hand side of the page, I can also do this. I could totally expand out. I have room to move around in here. Do you see that? So I didn't just do magic. All I did is I spread my vanishing points out and I drew at a smaller scale, and that allows me to move my frame around more inside my piece. That's huge right now, because now I can decide, like, hey, I really like that factory, but you know, what if I want to get more of the houses back here? What if I want to get, you know, I might want to reframe. I might want to go for this angle here. And what if I really wanted to get complicated? What if I just decided to do this? What if I said, oh yeah, because I'm such a badass, I'm going to put a hill in the back. And then on my hill, I'm going to have more houses. Right? You could do that. Just keep it plumb. And it's a house. You might have a hill. There might be a little street that goes this way. Goes off. There. A couple trees in there. That's it. Silhouette shape. You can easily do that. No one did that in this class, by the way. Everyone's living in Flatville, which is pretty common. Okay, look, I could come over here. I live over in Yorba Linda, and we have tails everywhere. And it's great, because you just see just a row of houses. They're just a front view, you know. And, you know, sometimes there's like trees, whatever, bushes. That's it. Bunch of houses. on the front. See that? Now I have another element to work with, okay? All right, so that's huge right there because I still have this ability to do this, guys. Heck, I could even do this now. See how I can adjust my frame? I can move my frame any way that I want right now, and I could get a better drawing out of it. In fact, I really like that position right there because now when I come back to my rough, do you see how, look, I have a house here. Let's say I had a tree here. Okay. Sorry for my chicken scratch, but you'll see what I'm getting at here. I might have more trees in the back here, bushes. I can have another house then over here. And then I might have more houses, trees, the road, whatever. See what I'm getting at? I'm building up shapes. So now I have a shape here that's a house in the foreground. I could have another one that's back over here. I can add little fences in the backyard there, make it look like everyone's got their own separate backyard, which we do here in California. There, so see what I'm getting at? Oh, chimneys. Little chimney there, little chimney here, maybe one chimney there, one there, okay? And the reason why I picked this, I gave you guys this assignment is the silhouette shape of the factory is totally different. So that teaches you a little bit about basics of composition. If you want to get your eye to look at something that's totally different than everything else in the scene, you just change the shape of it. Houses are rectangles with little cornices, little triangles on the top, right? That's it. A factory is 2-3 stories tall with smokestacks and all kinds of detail and all kinds of crap all over it, right? All that detail brings it back together into a visual read. So your cognitive processor in your brain that's been trained ever since you were a baby to look at shapes, and when you see a shape, you'll know exactly what that shape is by the silhouette of it, okay? Then I could show you, in fact, I should probably do that lecture next class because that ties into a little bit of what we're drawing here, okay? And so this is key for me right now because when I started this drawing, I was much more zoomed in, and now I have the ability to reframe because I have a vanishing point that's out. So I mentioned to you guys before about taping on a piece of paper to your sketch, to your notebook, and then folding it outward. Or something I've done before is I've bought Post-its. They're the large Post-its. Excuse me. And I've wrapped the Post-its out to stretch a vanishing point out the page. And I already showed you another way. Nobody was wanting to do that little line thing and having the angles in there. That's fine. I totally can sympathize with that. When I first was learning perspective, even when I was at studios, I taped stuff together, and I would sometimes have 3 pieces of paper taped over with lines going across. Okay, so, but you can see the difference now. I have the ability to move a frame around, and that changes my whole composition and changes all of my frame. Okay, not to overcomplicate things, but a couple of you guys gave me melted mushroom clouds. Okay, where there's a ground plane, the sky is the same way. So if I come back here and if I lightly sketch right now, here I'm just going to do this freehand, okay? So if I come in and if I sketch, I have a sky plane in here. Like so. So that allows me, okay, now I did that as a grid and then it starts to get really busy, so what I'm going to do is go back and undo it real quick. I already know it in my mind where it is, okay? But now that allows me to do stuff like this. So I'm looking underneath clouds, right? And that cloud could wisp back like so. And now I can see the underneath of that cloud. And then as clouds recede way back here by these houses on the hill, they're much smaller, but I can still see just a little bit underneath it. Maybe back here they're just really small, but I can see a little bit of the underneath side to it, okay? Technically with clouds, it's an illusion because it's water vapor getting hit by light, okay? However though, since it's up above us, that light source is coming down in a particular direction, which tends to cause highlights to be on one side, which therefore causes the illusion of shadows being underneath. All I'm doing here is to facilitate the need of perspective in my drawing and make it feel more accurate. I'm sort of slicing my clouds in half to give it that feel like this, that I'm looking down, that I'm looking up at the clouds. Okay? All right, so there. That's it. That wasn't too long of a demo, but you guys can see the difference in there. A couple of you guys are giving me these melted marshmallow clouds or something, right? Don't do those. Have an underneath to it. It's a lot easier to read. Even if it's, these are sort of what we would call cumulonimbus clouds, which are like puffies. And there's also stratus clouds, which tend to be very sort of straight like this. But the stratus, you can still do a little bit like this. See that? You can still see underneath. And just by slicing it just a little bit like that, my mind identifies, oh, I'm looking underneath something. Okay? Let's say, for some reason, let me see how far I can go back. Let's say I decided I want to come into my drawing here and put a giant tree somewhere. Okay? So I always look at my horizon line, because if I had a tree that was coming right here and I'm looking down on it, I basically draw this shape for my tree. Okay, it's a cylinder cut in half with the support of the wood, the bark system or whatever, the trunk underneath it. Okay, well the trunk is like the lower part, right? What do you call the tree itself, the wood part?
Trunk.
It's a trunk.
Okay, trunk, whatever.
Trunk and
Anyway,
branches.
so but then if that goes above my horizon line, I can see underneath that now. I can see under part of that shape. So if I had a tree that went way above here that was like in the foreground, I'm going to be able to see underneath part of that tree, and I'm going to be able to see the branches that are connecting, because this part right here is above my horizon line, if that makes sense. I know it's starting to look like a football playbook right now because it's really rough, but you get the point. And the biggest point that I wanted to express today, because everybody's doing it, is this right here. I have the ability, why is it doing that? I have the ability, one more time, to reframe and move my frame around inside my piece now. And I can do that. Okay, and what's cool about that is that basically I'm showing you a method to cheat the adjustment of your horizon line. You don't have to redraw the whole drawing, because now I can just move my frame. So if my frame's right there, and I decide that's the frame I want, look at where my horizon line is. My horizon line is pretty low inside that image, versus if I come over here and I do this, okay, like that, my horizon line's really high. So I have less distance to go upward in terms to draw with right there. That wouldn't be a good idea because I'm cutting off my factory. That wouldn't be a good idea because now I have tangencies with the top of my factory. That is a much better idea. I can see the factory in there. I have a little bit of space around it to give it sort of what I call resting points, okay, where it rests, and I can see the silhouette, and then I can expand out my frame a little bit more, okay? All right, so that's it. Let me stop the recorder real quick.